Hello from the Dukascopy TV studio in Geneva. We're talking about anger. How does it diminish our daily potential with Kamy Lavanchy from Transforming Lives. Kamy, welcome to the studio.
Thanks for having me.
So this particular emotion, anger, actually, how does it show up in our lives, and into which other emotions is it often disguised to?
Right, it's true. So obviously anger shows up on a daily basis, and it shows up very regularly in our daily lives. And what you say is, how is it disguised, is very interesting, because it is disguised. Anger is very often disguised in areas such as judgment, for example, or jealousy. And sometimes even our loneliness or sadness underlying is really this emotion of anger. And very often people are so not aware of that because they haven't realized that this button has been pushed from something very, very old. Typically, it's not the issue at hand, whatever's happening at that particular moment, in that present moment, that's really causing the anger. It's something from way back in the past, or just another emotion, another incident that hasn't been dealt with and hasn't been healed, but got pushed by this particular energy.
So you mentioned it's an emotion that is often suppressed. How do we get in touch with it again?
This is it's an intense question, because in order for people to get in touch with that anger, they have to be willing. Now, if you think about it, a lot of people are afraid of anger because, you know, what do you think of when you think anger? You think, you know, aggression, and it scares people. It brings people down. It diminishes them. It makes them small. So people have fear around anger. Therefore, they don't want to get in touch with this emotion. There are anger management classes, for example. I feel like anger management classes are really for people that are acting out on the anger more often, and they're learning how to manage that in a more appropriate way. Whereas other people that are afraid of anger, they're not acting out on it. They're actually getting small, and they're going inside, and then they have self-doubt, and then they have self-criticism, and they start this little self-chatter amongst themselves. For those people, a good coach, a really good coach will bring them into that anger, will do some exercises with them to actually get in touch with this anger. And something that most people do not even realize is suppressing this anger takes a tremendous amount of our energy to push it down. And bringing it up to the surface really allows us to step into our authenticity. It brings us into our presence and into our present moment, and it allows us to use that power, if you want, for ourselves, who we are, not power as if, you know, I'm more powerful than you. It's a power of strength, of security, of essence.
So you already said it's this suppression is really holding us back, and often we get in touch with anger through like the actual emotion. So can we go into that? How does it actually change our lives or diminishes our potential in the family, in the workplace, in the society, and how should we deal with it?
Sure. Well, very often when people, let's use Christmas, for example, and people go back home to their families, and often people are dreading that because there's always this sort of energy that's left within the family that has not been dealt with. So already they're feeling that suppressed anger within them starting to come to the surface. And what happens is they get to home, and all the siblings come, and they have to work really, really hard not to blow their top for one reason or another. Somebody's going to say something, somebody's going to do something, somebody puts the cup on the wrong side of the table, whatever the situation is. So this is how that suppressed anger, if you want, is going to show up, and how much energy it takes for us to keep it down. It's, again, a very, very conscious effort. Lots of breathing, and you must be present. You must come into your body. So with the breath, which will make you present, will also bring you into your body, and then you have to ask yourself, what about this situation is making me upset? It's awareness. We have to become aware of why these buttons being pushed, these triggers, if you want, are igniting us. So what about this situation is making me upset? Let me see if I can give you an example. I guess, like I said, you know, putting the glass on the wrong side of the table. Some people want things set up a certain way, and then if it's not set up a certain way, you know, because it doesn't coincide with whether we say their belief system or the way that they like to do things, that can make somebody angry. So breathing, bringing yourself present, becoming aware of that's not how I would do it. And then you have to bring in acceptance. How can I accept that this is how another person does it differently? It takes a lot of conscious effort. And like I said earlier about going to coaching, if people wanted to do some coaching to get into it, it takes a lot of courage, a tremendous amount of courage for people to really deal with these sort of emotions and go in and work with them. Most people, they like to suppress it because they don't want to feel the pain. They don't want to go through all the different events, if you want, that bring up the anger. But it's quickly done. It truly is. And if people would just understand that if they took the time to do that, they would be so much better off in their life. They would feel so much better.
So if I understand it correctly, anger does not start with the other person, it starts with yourself.
Yes, because what it is it's accumulated information. What I talk about very often is our belief systems are developed very, very young in life. So between 0 and 6 years old, we're gathering all of our belief system. And then from then on, we go into life. And what we do is we create life based on that belief system. So whatever we've gathered within there, and let's face it, you know, some people do have very angry parents, and some people have parents that really suppress their anger and don't show it at all. And then there's other issues of alcoholism, depression, and what have you, which can make a child feel angry because the parent's not available. So anger really comes from something within. It's within us. And unfortunately, I would say things are definitely changing now because people are becoming more aware of their emotions and they're teaching their children how to deal with anger and other emotions, and they're allowing that to be expressed, whereas before it was being suppressed. So now things are starting to shift, but we're not going to see that for another 20 years in the workplace, if you want, on how it develops with the up-and-coming teenagers and how they communicate with each other. But it's also very important because it destructs our communication. We place judgment right away and we get those thoughts in our head, and then we don't communicate correctly with our boss, for example, or our colleagues and our coworkers. And sometimes we stay very quiet and other times we explode, which creates disruption in the workplace as well, in any relationship, not just the workplace.
Kamy Lavanchy from Transforming Lives, thank you very much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks for watching. Do make sure to keep clicking back on the Dukascopy TV website for latest updates and exclusive interviews. Have a great day and see you next time.